lost their jobs all around some parking tickets or the city sticker. So we are working hard, and we've announced some specific reforms around those issues, and we have information about that we'll pass out tonight. But I want you to understand that going forward, we are not going to do things that operate in a way that people who can't afford it, and particularly black and brown folks, bear the burden of balancing the city budget. That's not fair, it's not right, and we're not going to do that. Number two, we have to make sure that we are investing in neighborhoods. We are going to announce very soon a number of initiatives designed to reinvigorate commercial corridors all across the South and the West Side. Commercial corridors that used to be thriving, that are not. We want to make sure that the city invests its resources to get those commercial corridors up and running again. Why is that important than the obvious? If we build economic capacity in neighborhoods, if we give people the grocery stores, the retail shops, those not only give you amenities that you need, that you don't have to travel to the suburbs, but it also creates jobs. And that is the thing that we desperately need all over the city, particularly on the South and the West Side. We need to give people hope. We need to build stability in neighborhoods. And the surest way that we can make that happen is through economic development. Yes. So you all have been talking to me and to my colleagues for months now, and I want you to know that we've heard you. We've heard that you need relief, but that you also need jobs and economic development and the kind of equity and investment that has happened in other areas of the city but hasn't been brought to the South Side. We're going to change that around. And with the support of great aldermen like Alderman Mitchell, who is really an incredible advocate for you at City Hall, and with your continued support, we can get things done. There's no question about it. So I'm going to end there because I'm interested in hearing from you, but keep it coming. We appreciate all the comments and the feedback that you are giving us. One of the things that's most important to me is to make sure that our policies in city government actually reflect the realities of what's happening in neighborhoods. I say it this way: we want to make sure that our policies reflect the lived experience of the people who are most affected by the things that we do in government. And we don't do that by making up a policy and then trying to sell it to you. We do that by being out and listening and then reflecting that in the process of making good policy. That's what governing should be about. That's what we want to bring to the city of Chicago, and we're working really hard to make sure that we deliver on that. But we need you with us. We need your support. We need you to keep giving us feedback, even if it's feedback where you say, you know what, Lightfoot, you got it wrong. I want to hear that, because that's important for us to make sure that we are getting it right for you. Thank you.
Okay, so we actually are ahead of schedule, so we're going to try to squeeze as many questions as possible in. So this is how the question and answer is going to go. So you have our born students in the rows. Those of you who want to ask a question, you raise your hand, and one of the students will bring you the microphone. Once again, for those of you whose question is not asked, make sure you turn in the index card to us, okay? And for those who did not get index cards, raise your hands. Okay. So, all right. Well, hold tight. I'm gonna get it started, and then we'll make sure you guys get cards. I'm looking. Okay. All right. So let me take this opportunity before the questions to introduce some of those people that's sitting here on this table. For the 7th Warders, this is your superintendent, Ward Superintendent Marcelo Singers. From the Water Management Introduce it.
Hi, I'm John Gallagher, General Superintendent of the South District for Water Management.
Dwayne Hightower, First Deputy Commissioner for the Department of Streets and Sanitation.
Tom Carney, Acting Commissioner, Chicago Department of Transportation.
Brendan Schreiber, Chief Engineer of Sewers for the Department of Water Management.
Commander Migdalia Bonas for the 4th District.
Yeah! Woohoo!
Commander Gloria Hanna, 3rd District.
Yes!
All right. I see one of my state reps just got here. Guys, this Curtis Tarver, 25th Legislative District.
Yes, Curtis.
All right, so let's start the question and answer period. All right.
Harry Gilliam, 7251 South Shore.
Can you speak into the?
7251 South Shore Drive. My concern is for the people in my building, seniors and veterans. They've been disrespected. It's a Texas company that came in and is trying to bully people out. What could be done? What could you do to enact some restrictions upon them and make sure that they deal with people fair and equitable? Another question I have is for the golf course. You spoke of kids during your campaign. I've trained some, since at least 2 of my kids have finished college every year for the past 30 years. I train them, they do well. We need the golf course. I have to go out to Hegrish to teach, out to Bensonville in the winter. We need that course. Facilities that are very much advanced for them where I can touch more kids.
All right, thank you for your question, sir. Is the building, is it a public building or is it a private building? Okay. So what I'm going to ask you to do is, where's somebody, Manny? Manny Perez is one of our senior leaders in intergovernmental affairs. If you talk to Manny, he'll take down the specific information and we'll see what we can do. Regarding the golf course, really the ball is not in the city's court. In order for that project to be able to move forward, there's an allocation of money that needs to come from the state. I think the governor and his team are asking a lot of tough and questions about the course, what the investment is actually going to help in terms of jobs and how many people it's going to serve. So they're going through that process right now, and hopefully we'll get that resolved soon to see whether or not the project is actually going to move forward. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor.
Good evening, sir.
Welcome to not only the south side, but the southeast side of Chicago. My name is Orrin McDaniels. I represent the Coastland Co-op, which is a 13-story, 23-unit co-op at 73rd and the Lake. We sit next to the Windsor Co-op, which is a 72-unit co-op that also sits on the lake. You and I were at a meeting the 5th of September concerning the raised lake level and the efforts of the city in order to help the buildings around the lake handle the erosion problem. At that time, we heard and you acknowledged that everything from Evanston to the Cultural Center has been taken care of. You asked your administration to look into from 71st Street the rest of the way down. I'm wondering what has happened with that and what steps are being taken. No one has contacted us. What steps are being taken to help preserve the erosion of the beaches as well as all of the homeowners there?
Thank you, sir, for that question. Look, this is an issue that we've got to reckon with. I mean, 5 years ago, as you well know, we were talking about historic low levels in the lake. The lake is high, and so we're working with the local alderman, but also the Army Corps of Engineers to make sure that we come up with a plan that accounts for the fact that obviously our lake runs further south than just North Avenue. So we're pushing them to make sure that whatever resources they're putting into the north side, that those are also spread evenly and appropriately on the south side. I will make sure that we give an update on that because I actually have not heard back yet from the Army Corps of Engineers, but we're going to put the barricades up, we'll put the sand bags up, but we need a longer-term solution because I don't think our lake is going to dip to lower levels again, and we don't want to have a situation where the beaches are completely disappearing which is what's happening. There's huge erosion really all along Lake Michigan, because I hear that from people that live in Michigan or some are in Michigan as well. And we want to make sure that we don't have the kind of flooding that we've seen either. So a longer-term solution, which I think is going to have to lie in putting some kind of barricades further out into the lake to slow the flow of the water onto the beaches, is something that we're going to have to look at, and it's probably going to require us to partner with our congressional delegation to get resources from Washington to be able to get that accomplished. But we're going to work hard to make sure we don't see the kind of flooding that we fear from the fierce lake water over the course of the winter.
Good evening, Mayor and distinguished panel of guests. My name is Tori Nicholson. I'm a teacher at Chicago Vocational Career Academy School. I'm here, I don't live in this ward, but my students, some do. And my question is, we live in a really beautiful city. There's a lot of resources here, but it seems like the southeast side kind of gets ignored and we don't get access to those things. We want that for our kids. We want them to have the same school experience that you get if you go to Walter Payton or if you go to, one of the more affluent schools. If you're at Northside College Prep, because we have to live up to the same standards. So we want our kids to have the same resources. Is there a plan to maybe use TIF funds, or because cannabis is becoming legal, is there a plan for that money to come towards the school, towards the educational program, so that our students get equity as well in their education?
So the question was around equity in resources to schools. So we're doing two things. One, we have made a $100 million investment in infrastructure for schools. Now, not every school is going to get dollars, but what we did for the first time is to make sure that those funds are being spent based on schools that are most in need. I've heard from parents, teachers, students all over the city about school buildings with literally leaking roofs, walls that are caving in. Particularly, I know this is a big issue on the southeast side. So we pressed CPS, and they really have taken a leadership in this to make sure that those funds are distributed in an equitable fashion. And we've got overcrowding in some areas. Some of those monies are going to go to that, but also just to make sure that we've got science labs, STEM labs, and other things that we need in schools all across the city to make sure that every student is getting the kind of high-quality education that they deserve, because, let's face it, taxpayers are footing the bill, and we need to do a better job at spreading equity. The other thing that we're doing is CPS is embarking on a year-long study around equity. What other things should we be doing to make sure that kids are getting access to resources, programming, and some of the things that you've identified, making sure that that's spread evenly so that we don't have this zip code disparity that we've seen for way too long. So those are two of the things that we're doing right now. And we're looking at other opportunities, and we certainly welcome suggestions from all the stakeholders at CPS. So thank you for your question.
Welcome, Mayor.
Mayor.
Thank you.
My name is Shirley Edwards, and my question is, with that recent parking deal that the city of Chicago made with that outside company, is it possible or even reasonable to rescind that?
I wish that were so. She's asking about the parking deal. It's got to be one of the worst municipal deals ever. The fact that this was a 65-year deal and they've already made their money at this short time tells you how bad that deal is. I will tell you that one of the first things that I did is I had our lawyers take a look at the deal again to see if there's something that we could do to fix it so that it's better. Unfortunately, there's not a lot that we can do to change it, but we're going to continue to look for ways in which we can make it fairer and better. But no, unfortunately, a lot of the provisions of that parking meter deal we are stuck with. I'm sorry? All I can do is say heavy sigh. I don't disagree with you, but as I said, if there was a way that we could change the terms and make them more favorable, but obviously lesson learned. I got a question the other week from some young man who said, went through the litany of privatizing various things, and he said to me, so what are you going to be privatizing? My answer is nothing.
All right.
You gotta have a microphone. Where's the microphone on this side?
My name is Dracia Wilson, and sometimes I feel like I'm gonna get involved of all of the shootings. In some places, I don't feel like I should be there. You are the best mayor, and you're doing a good job.
Oh, that's so funny.
It's not going to get better. We should end it right there. Thank you very much for your comments,
That's all right. Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Mildred Smith, and I live at
You need to speak directly to the microphone.
My name is Mildred Smith, and I live at 8137 South Kingston. Under the previous administration, we'd have building violations. I have mold in my apartment. I have breast cancer, and I was diagnosed with another form of cancer. I work in a community hospital, Norwegian American Hospital. If you all know, a couple of weeks ago, we had 30 people to overdose on one corner. And guess what they brought us? Norwegian. We even had ambulance from Mount Emblem come to get the bodies. Because county pronounce them dead, they bring them so Allied can come to get them. What is the city going to do about the violations for this building? It's a big corporation from New York. I researched them. They don't have, it's Icarus. They don't have a city license. Last year, twice, People Gas put a sign on our building where they were going to terminate the gas. We can't get in touch with them. Nothing has been done. I have leaked in every room of my unit. When it rains, because it needs to be tub pointed, it rains in my units. We fill out the call for the maintenance. No one responds.
So it's 8135 South King Drive?
8137. It's
37.
It's 8135 and 8137. I stay on the 8137 side. South Kingston.
South King Drive.
Kingston.
Sorry.
When this company first brought our building, I researched it. They can't even get a city license. They can't even get federal funding.
So here's what we're going to do. Now that you've given me the address, I'm going to make sure that the building department comes out with inspectors to figure out what's going on.
Hi, my name is Helen Crowley, and I want to know, Mayor, I would like to see see the mental health centers be reopened here on the south side of Chicago.
I'm sorry, can you speak a little more into the microphone?
Okay. I'm Helen Crawley, and I'm concerned about the mental health pieces in the neighborhood. I would want to see if we can reopen the mental health center here on the south side of Chicago. Maybe we get some of these churches to help partner with that to get it done. A young man in my community on Friday, there was about 20 police cars out there, and I went out there, what's going on? He has a mental condition. I'm a part of the National Mental Health Support Group organization, and I understand the condition that needs someone to know how to talk to them. That CDP for police, they call it the CDP police. And they used to have signs all in the neighborhood, because I used to go out and put them in all buildings and put posters, but they took them all down on the mayor manual. These people, they know when they have a mental condition, they know what police to call. Okay? That needs to be done, bang. Thank you.
So, we have heard this really all over the city. There are community-based resources, but they're not obvious and apparent and affordable to people.
I know.
So what our Department of Public Health is leading on is putting together a comprehensive network of community-based resources that are available and can cover the full range of mental health issues, from the most severe to down to depression and everything else in between. The other thing that we are going to be working on is making sure that we do a much better job of destigmatizing mental health issues. Right? Part of the challenge is people don't seek help because of the stigma associated with it. So we need to keep working on that and doing a better job. But we will be announcing later this fall a specific plan. And I will tell you, they brought me a plan. I told them not good enough, in part because it didn't do enough to address young people. And whatever we do has to also not just cover adults, while there is a need there, but there's also a need, as you identified, I think very articulately, a need for our young people to have access to service, not just in school, although that's important, but also out of school. Because when we treat the community and we treat the family, we treat the city, and we need to strive towards a better, healthy, trauma-informed city.
Hello, Mayor. South Chicago loves and respects you. And thank you for all your efforts to help my loved city. I was born and raised here. I graduated from Inglewood High School. Anyway, I have two suggestions. I got a list, but I'll just do two. Pick up plastic off the streets. It's ridiculous how much plastic bottles and glasses and paper bags all over Chicago. It wasn't like that when I was growing up, and I have a suggestion how to fix it. People can put the stuff in the bags and take it to the alderman's office and put it in a dumpster.
Oh, you got to give Mitchell a face. Did you see that face? Like, no. That is a picture.
That's one. We need more lectures on how to remove the plastic, because they've been telling us about it, but we need to know how to do that, how to get rid of those things. And the last thing is we need to discuss forgiveness. We need to learn to forgive our neighbors for some of the things. Forgive.
Thank you.
The Monday was driving me crazy.
Mr. Hunter, you want to talk about the trash issue?
I'm working on that one.
Hi, Dwayne Hightower, Streets and Sanitation. So as far as the trash issue, daily we have the ward superintendents and the refuse collection coordinators going out surveying the area. And as you know, you couldn't have a better ward superintendent than Marcella. So, we can do a grid of the ward, and we have the sweepers going down all the main streets every day. So we can do a grid cleanup of the ward, and I can work with the alderman as well as the ward superintendent to address those issues.
Absolutely. So guys, let me switch this up a little bit. For the ones who want to ask questions, come over to the side.
Yeah.
I think that would be better.
I appreciate it. 'Cause this turning around and tiring me out. I'm like, hey.
Yeah.
Call them like
So
10, 5 at a time.
Hands up now. Decision based on hands. Okay. All right. So
I appreciate it.
So who has the microphone? You come on and you started off. Who has the microphone?
You said Icarus Investments.
Icarus,
I'm sorry, my name is
Take a picture of
Banks.
this.
I live on 83rd.
Yeah, that's him.
Colfax.
Who's talking now?
And
Get on
I
there.
got some
Take
really
a picture of it,
questions.
email it.
Why does it take so long to get the trees trimmed? My neighborhood, the trees are so overgrown.
That's him. Take a picture. Talk to him.
All the violence that happens in that neighborhood because you can't see anything. That's my first one. The second one, the ambulance takes forever. When there is a shooting in our block, in our neighborhood, it takes forever to get there. I don't think that's fair for a body to be laying down on the sidewalk as long as it's laying there and you got family members breathing. I'm just trying to figure out what can we do for that. Those blue lights that's up on the pole, why are they there? Are they supposed to help us, to hurt us? I'm just a constituent trying to find out some answers.
So let me take the ambulance question and then I'm going to pass it to Mr. Hightower on the tree trimming. We don't have enough ambulances in the city of Chicago, and we are working to address that issue. This is one of the things that we're negotiating as part of the new contract with the fire department. If you look at the call for service data, so meaning people calling for 911, we have a huge spike in the amount of calls for emergency medical care versus the number of fires. We've done a good job in the city actually educating people about fire safety. The changes in the building supplies have made a difference. So we need to make sure that we've got more ambulances and EMTs trained to respond to these emergency calls for service. We're working on it. We're definitely going to be bringing more ambulances online, but I hear you loud and clear on that issue. And then with trees, I want to talk about the number of dead trees that are around the city as well. But maybe Mr. Hightower can educate us more about the tree trimming.
Yes, we are working in your ward as we speak as far as the tree trimming. And I have been working with your alderman to address a lot of the issues with tree trimming. We're currently, we have a backlog that we're currently working on, but that particular location, we will most definitely make sure that gets trimmed. But we are in your ward right now working on trimming trees.
Okay, here go the lineup.
We're gonna go here. Come on, tell us.
Lined up to ask questions all the way to.
That's right.
Hi, my name is Sharon Lewis. I'm here to ask you about our businesses that are already in our 7th Ward and in our Southeast Side community. We have a lot of legacy businesses, people who have stayed when they could have left, who need support in this community. As much as we need new and burgeoning businesses, those businesses need support as well. We have an organization, the Southeast Side Collaborative, that was put together by Ray Harris, the community builder, realtor. And so we're looking for people who have long-term 15, 20, 30, 40-year businesses, and they're suffering. They need help. And so we'd like to know, what kind of resources we're going to give those businesses to reward them or even acknowledge them for staying in our communities.
Thank you for that question. I mean, what we have to do is do a better job of making sure that we're providing supports for small businesses all over the city. As part of our new economic development plan, we are going to be rolling out a process for strengthening neighborhood business development centers. They actually exist all over Chicago, but the level of support that they're providing for small businesses is really uneven. And we want to make sure that we raise the bar for them, that if they're going to get city money, that they've got to do a better job in reaching businesses and providing them with support. So that's a big part of the push as part of our economic development plan. Should we go here?
Good evening, Mayor Lightfoot.
Good evening, sir.
My name is Justin Jordan, and
we got Barry White on the microphone. And you just want to
Then they got back and like,
I've
oh
been a
no.
photographer here for over 30 years, and I've shot for all of most of the political people here. And I also owned a restaurant on the beach at 31st Street Beach down in 2006. But because they thought they were going to get the Olympics, they put me out of it. And I moved to Florida, started teaching for the Boys and Girls Club, came back in 2010. Under my corporation, I started a new business behind the South Shore Culture Center, and which was a restaurant on the beach. They closed me down from there. I've been struggling trying to get back in business for a long time. And I also now have a photography studio on 86 and Commercial. Very much struggling because I'm also doing school photographs for the CPS. But one thing I like to say, nowadays you can't even go to a store and buy a bag of chips and a soda from a black store. And I'm not understanding why is it that when I was a kid, I can go with a quarter and buy a bag of chips and a soda from a black person, and I can teach my son how to become a businessman. But when they are seeing nothing but foreigners and white people doing business in our community, it doesn't give them any hope. It makes it hard for them to even visualize it being a business owner. So what happens is, I have a nonprofit where I teach kids photography, but I can't get any support. I'm looking for some support somewhere, Miss Mayor Lightfoot. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
I'm Carolyn Curry.
We're going to alternate that.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm sorry.
Hello, my name is Stephen Harris.
Hello,
how you
Steve.
doing, Mayor Lightfoot?
I'm good.
I was raised in the 7th Ward for 30 years. By the grace of God, I made it out. So my question is, how could I come back and help my community? Because I have a lot of other people who made it out. They want to come back and help. But it's been kind of hard for us because we don't have an address in the 7th Ward. So I'm wondering how can we do that, and if you can help me out, because we want to give back. And we still have ties with some of the kids and families that still live out here, and we want to help them. But we're having issues with that, and I was wondering if you could help us out with that.
So, Alderman, I'll tell you, I met Mr. Harris and his wife through a client, and they have a sincere interest in trying to start a not-for-profit. They can give back to the community. They all grew up here. They live elsewhere now, but they care very much about the community, and they want to be helpful. So maybe we can caucus offline about ways in which we can give you a little boost to be able to get done what you need to get done. It's good to see you, Steve. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Welcome to the 7th Ward. And I see we have 8th Ward and every other ward here tonight, but this is our night.
It sounds like you're taking names and going to kick people out.
I'm Carolyn Curry. I have lived in the 7th Ward basically for 50 years. I taught in the 7th Ward 2 blocks from my house. Hello, lady. For 34 years. That young man that just spoke, Justin, was one of my students. So I have taught the population over here, or I have led the population in some kind of whatever. But anyway,
yes.
My question, pardon me.
No, I just want to make sure that everybody gets an opportunity.
Yes.
So I'm just going to ask folks if you can kind of get your questions so that we can get as many people in as possible.
Okay, it's coming. Mine is very short because I am upset about the aldermen losing their power. Because I have suffered from somebody said tree trimming. I have, for street being paid 4 months before it was completed, and other things that are happening. I know that my husband was a coach, one of the greatest coaches, high school coaches in this city. Quarterback, you're the quarterback. But you have 50 offensive and defensive players. And I know that they are crooked aldermen, but this happens not to be one. We love him. I went through 2 that were awful. One of them, I don't even remember her name. Okay.
Can I address your question?
Yes.
Okay. So number one, look around at how many people are here tonight. Does this look like Alderman Mitchell has lost his power? I don't think so.
But that was not a question. Let me
address it. Are you going to let me address it?
Sure.
Okay. The executive order that I signed, ending aldermanic prerogative, did not take away Alderman's power. There's been a lot of miscommunication about that. And let me be very clear with you what it did. You indicated that we got 50 different aldermen. Of course we do. But here's the challenge. The challenge is that when you set up a system that's supposed to be a democracy, and you have 50 different sets of rules, how easy do you think it is for people to be able to do business in the city of Chicago? It's impossible. And what I heard universally from people all over the city, individuals, small businesses, large corporation, we want to know what the rules are, but the rules have to be a set amount of rules for the same people no matter where you live. So ending aldermanic prerogative said, we are not going to have 50 different sets of rules for everything. And now there's a misnomer out there that somehow my signing the executive order on automatic prerogative took away the alderman's ability to talk about trash pickup, garbage collection, trimming trees. Not so. Right? We have gone to a grid system that went into place several years ago, but you still can go to your alderman, you still can go, or you can go online directly to say, hey, I need this tree trim. Hey, this light is out. And we're trying to deliver the services as efficiently as we can, but none of that has anything to do with aldermanic prerogative. So let's go over here. Okay. Thank you, ma'am. And again, short and sweet so we can get to as many people as possible.
Okay, from the Friends of Merle Park Advisory Council, Jeffrey Manor, 7th Ward. We're all here today. Thank you for coming, as well as Greg Mitchell. What our organization's been doing for like over 40, 50 years that I've been in the Jeffrey Manor is trying to give back to the kids, because it's all about the kids right now, who's going to be coming up behind us to make things happen. So we wanted to know how, or did you have any suggestions how we could get more groups together as one group, not as one group, but trying to just see how, any suggestions how we could get everybody, the groups, the different little groups in the community together so that we could work all together, as well as like we do book bags, school supplies, food drives, coat drives. We want to know, do you have any suggestions how we can make these groups all work together as opposed to being one group here, one group there, nobody trying to work together?
Well, you raise a very, very good, but candidly difficult question. Unfortunately, even though groups are supposedly working on the same end, and in your instances, how do we better support our kids? There's all this competition that happens. And so the focus oftentimes is, let me make sure I get my piece of the pie, as opposed to, we're stronger together and we can do bigger things if we unite and not try to carve up territory. I don't have an easy answer for you, but what I can tell you is there is a huge need all over the city for community-based organizations to join together. And I'm willing to work with you and work through the alderman to see what we can do to bring people to the table. Whether it's after school programs, whether it's making sure that our kids aren't hungry, that there's great needs that need to be filled in communities, and it takes leadership to make sure that we are focused on what the end objective is and not trying to be in competition with each other, because then nothing gets done.
That's right, that's right.
But I appreciate your comment. It's dead on, and that is something that we absolutely have to focus on.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Darrell Jackson. I'm on 84th and Colfax. Couple things. You touched on investing in a community. So are you going to invest in the 7th Ward directly? And the other two things is, unfortunately, we have right now the best police commander that we have had in years. So can we just keep it just a little bit longer?
Amen.
commander just a
She is a good commander. She's a good commander. She really is.
How can I have an organization that works, because I've worked with the commanders.
But they'll
and
change
other
our commanders in a minute.
How can I get funding and helping in working with the city and building bridges with the police and stopping crime? I also lost my child in 2010 at 16 years old.
So, again, I'm going to ask you to give your information to one of my team members. People from the mayor's office, staff that are here, wave your hand over here, and JD's right here. So we will get your information and have somebody reach out to you. But I hear you on a police commander issue. I hear it all the time. And so I will reinforce to the superintendent that it's important that district commanders have some longevity in their districts, because you form a relationship with them, you get them trained right, and then they move on too quickly. So I hear you loud and clear, and I appreciate that you value the district commanders so much. So thank you for that. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Louise Evans. I'm staying at 8500 block on Manistee. I would just like to see if you can reinvent curfew. You got so many kids out here, and they shouldn't be. You know, you got 14, 15 years old, walking them down the street. As a senior, we try to get out early, because we don't want no problem with these little kids. You know, so if we had curfew, when my kids was growing up, and I was living in Robert Taylor housing, they put me on probation.
Yeah.
Can we bring some of that back with the curfew to get these kids off the streets?
Well, your point is well taken. And what we see on a regular basis, particularly over the course of summer, the times that the police department is most challenged, and really the entire city, is between 11 p.m. and 4 a.m. And during that window of time, particularly on the weekends, we have a difficult time with young people out in the street. Now, what that tells me, because at 11 p.m. the Park District closes its programming off. I don't know many community-based partners, whether it's faith community or community-based organizations, that have programming that run through the course of the night. So we do need help. We need parents and guardians to step up, because I'm old school. What my mother told us is nothing good happens after a certain period of time at night. So we need the community to help us in getting young people to recognize there's nothing good for you after hours, even though a lot of folks feel like, let me hang out. But what I can tell you is, people that are hanging out late at night, that's when you make yourself a victim, a potential victim of crime. So I hear you loud and clear. We're looking at a lot of different ways in which we can create safe spaces for young people to be. But the bottom line is, nothing good happens after 11 o'clock at night, particularly not on the weekend. So thank you for your time.
Before you speak, it's going to be a hard stop for the mayor at 7 o'clock. She has to move on, but
you know, I can stay.
Thank you,
let's stay
Mayor.
places.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, turn it on.
Turn it out, because it's cold in here. I ain't wear my sweater because I'm thinking. Good little line up. Like this line getting longer and longer.
Thank you very much, Mayor. My name is Brenda Stockstill, and I stay at 8243 South Oak Street. First, let me commend Alderman Mitchell for all the assistance he's been giving me about blocking my driveway and all. But I would like you to clarify, or vow to, use the TIF funds as originally stated. Now, I hear it can't be used to pay the pension fund. I hear it cannot be used for the schools. And I hear what it can't be used for. But my understanding was always that it was supposed to initially go to areas which were deprived. But we're seeing that it's being given for gentrification. And that's why so many of our people have moved out of the city. Thank you.
Well, I hear you loud and clear on that, and let me just clarify. What happens every year is we end up declaring what's called a TIF surplus. So additional money that isn't already earmarked for a particular project. Some of that money, when we declare a surplus, actually does go to the schools. So the schools are a big beneficiary when there's a TIF surplus that's declared, as we will be declaring before year's end. But I hear you loud and clear. What we know, and let me back up. Part of the challenge that we've seen in the city is that the city itself really hasn't had a comprehensive economic development plan. The truth is, we haven't had a land use plan, which is part of it, since 1966. So again, going back to the point, when and where about automatic prerogative, when and where development happens really depends on how much the alderman hustles and how much developers are willing to invest. But the sad reality is, we haven't seen, as you well know, much development south of Roosevelt Road or west of Ashland. So we're going to change that by having the city actually develop a comprehensive plan in concert with residents all over the city, but particular emphasis on the south and the west sides, so that we can bring TIF dollars and use them as they're appropriate, that we need to use it in areas that are blighted, and to make sure that the TIF dollar use passes the so-called but-for test, meaning but for the fact that these TIF dollars are used, an area would remain blighted. But it's got to be much more comprehensive than that, and as I said, I'm previewing it, but we will preview and roll out soon a comprehensive program on economic development that takes into consideration many of the things that I've heard from you tonight and people really all over the city. Folks, bottom line is, we got to do better. We got to invest in black and brown communities like we haven't in a very long time.
Just met with you over at the 10th Ward a couple of weeks ago. Just trying to piggyback on that 10-ton sign. I have a lot of the ones from 103rd where we're getting beat up by the trucks that come through our neighborhood. I did a little research about that, and I noticed that everything from east of Michigan all the way back east was built on the lake. So we found out that this area was never meant to sustain the trucks that come through our neighborhoods. So we're asking the 103rd Street people from 103rd to 100th Street, from 103rd back to 106 for a 10-ton sign. We've been asking the alderman. He put up some speed signs. It's not doing us any good because of the structure of our foundation. We are losing this battle. We are homeowners, we pay our taxes, we beautify our neighborhoods because that's what we're supposed to do. Move in and beautify. I am young, but I do own a home that I want to stay in my home. I've been in this neighborhood for 49 years. Right there on 103rd. If you would leave here tonight, take 103rd, and you'll see how the potholes is ridiculous. The trucks that go through there, the jet brakes from the trucks. We're up from 4 o'clock in the morning to 4 o'clock in the morning. And everyone who knows, because I am a healthcare worker, when you don't get any sleep, you develop cancer, all kind of different ailments because you have no rest. We get no rest. Yes, our stuff is falling off our walls. The structure is cracks in the foundation, just everything. So I did.
Yes, Mayor. Yes, so I was at that meeting as well. After that meeting, we did send out personnel to survey that stretch of 103rd Street. There are some depressions and things, road defects that we will be repairing. When the trucks and buses hit that obviously causes the rattling of your house. Those repairs will be done in the next couple weeks. We also are evaluating what to do. I understand that your request is for the 10-ton restriction, but we have to keep in mind that those trucks got to go if they're not going down your street, they're gonna go somewhere else. And,
Doty Road, it's right before they even come over the bridge. It's an access road, just for trucks alone. We have already did the homework for you. They can take Doty Road to 130 or go to Torrance, because that's all they want to is Torrance. They're not delivering anything within our residential area.
There's a lot of challenges on Doty Road though as well. That's coming apart.
But there's no houses, they're not keeping anyone up on that road.
I will give you my information, but we are evaluating where we're going to send trucks and buses if they don't go down 103rd. So that evaluation will continue.
So who helps us to be able to fix the structure of our homes? Perma Sealing already told us $12,000, and they cannot guarantee it because of the trucks.
So let us take this step by step. We did get your information. We heard you loud and clear. We will work on a plan to fix the roads, figure out where we can reroute these huge trucks, and then we will look at what we can do, if anything. I'm not sure what we can do about any structural damage to your home. But I think you gave us your information before, but we rest assured we are working on it to try to address it. So thank you for coming again and talking to us about it.
Hello.
Hello.
Lightfoot.
How are you, ma'am?
My name is Michelle Walker. My sister lives in the 7th Ward, but I don't. But my question, I have a two-part question. The first is that I live in Auburn Gresham, but when everything gets fixed on the other side of Western, we don't get none of our streets repaired. We don't get none of our sidewalks repaired. When I go to talk to Alderman to get it repaired, it's the 50-50 thing they have on the sidewalk program. Why is it that we have to split that payment to get our sidewalks fixed when I go over to California and they get the whole street, blocks and blocks of them repaired?
So why don't you give us your specific information, and we'll look into what's going on in your neighborhood.
Okay, my
what's the
second
second question?
thing is that my sister.
I don't know if you get two questions. But if you can be quick. Why don't you?
As a minority woman, we've been trying to help because our cities are getting tore up. We get put out of our places because property taxes, high water, sewage is steady going up, and a lot of people are looking at their houses and programs we don't even know about. Is there a program to help minority business that's trying to invest in these neighborhoods to get proper funding or whatever the case is to start fixing up these properties?
Yes.
So our people have some place to live in these communities.
The answer is yes. So again, if you would give us your information, we'll make sure that we get that information out to you. Thank you.
Good evening. I live on 103rd, right across from Trumbull Park. I have an issue with traffic. I'm on a one-way street going southbound. Every day, I see cars zooming down the street. The speed limit is supposed to be 30. I think these cars are going upwards 70 miles an hour, running the stop sign down the street. There are children who play in the park across the street. I own a home daycare. Kids play, well, my kids don't play outside, but the parents come, bringing their kids. It's a hazard. We had speed bumps. They took them away. I would like to know if we can get those back, at least.
We'll get your address and take a look at about the speed humps.
Good evening, Mayor. My name is Mia Hernandez, and I have some things, two things to tell you, and I hope you would look into it. My name is Mia Hernandez, and I go to Walt Disney Magnet School, and I want to say that we need some bus transportation because some of my friends, they live near me, and their moms or dads, they just spend most of their time taking them to the school and then taking them back home. and
You live in Hyde Park, Mia?
it takes a while, and I'm new to Hyde Park, so yeah, and in my school.
So tell me again, sweetie, what's your school?
Walt Disney Magnet School in Hyde Park.
No, you live in Hyde Park.
I live in Hyde Park.
And you go to Walt Disney Magnet School.
And
so what's her
and that CPS won't give the budget to my principal to help her fix the heating and the cooling system. And for the first day of school, we've been like suffering because of the heat, and like we have to like survive with it.
Okay, we'll definitely look into that. Thank you. Appreciate it. Hello, ma'am.
Hi, yes, I'm Danita Brown, and I live in the South Deering area. My concern is the 103rd Street. I catch the bus.
There's lots of stuff happening on 103rd
because
Street.
Could you touch them for me?
103rd
Could you touch
Street
them for me?
is full of debris.
I'm trying to record. I
All on
can't
the
see
bus
right.
stop, there's mud and stuff. There's water by the curb, so when the buses go by, it splashes you. I asked the alderman, matter of fact, I wrote him a letter, and I told him about it, and I told the 10th Ward alderman to see if they could come together and figure out what they could do about cleaning it up. But I didn't get a response. So, also I was going to piggyback off the lady that was talking about the trucks coming down. I live near there, and yes, you can hear them coming down, and they do sound like they're hitting these houses. Also, you all were saying that you might not be able to reroute the trucks. Well, there's a park being built over there. So I'm quite sure with that park being built across the street from the police station, that you all can reroute those trucks somewhere.
Hello, good evening, Mayor Lightfoot. First I want to say thank you for coming down and seeing us in our community. I come from the west side. I grew up in Humboldt Park. When I grew up there were probably more murders there than there were in Baghdad. Neighborhoods changed considerably. I've been in the neighborhood now for a little over a year now. And what I'd like to offer is maybe some solutions. I don't have all the solutions. I'm a fraud examiner, and that's fraud, not frog. A lot of people think I say fraud. No, I'm a fraud examiner, and I deal a lot with people who are losing their homes due to foreclosure, credit cards, and a variety of different things. And our court system is horrible. In my block alone where I live, there are 6 empty vacant buildings. And it's a huge problem because of all these buildings. Marcelo knows what I'm talking about, huh? They do a lot of dumping, the garages. It's a terrible, terrible situation. Okay, and I'm at 31 South Burnham. You go down there, and what I found out, the 6 buildings are owned by the same person, the same woman. And we've been after her to sell us the houses, just sell us the houses. She owes taxes, and she owes water bills, and she just gets away with it. Why? Because she's holding on to them, because she gets some kind of tax breaks of some kind. It's time that we do something about these empty homes. There's a problem. People can get killed in there. They can get raped. There's a variety of different things. And you know what? Let me tell you something. I don't like telling my family I live on the ugly block. Okay? So that's a problem. So here's just a couple of things that I just wanted to suggest, because everybody's asking questions. Maybe this will help. This problem with the streets breaking up, I know there's such a thing as self-healing cement. When it cracks and breaks, it fills in again on its own. I think if we use self-healing cement in the city of Chicago, we wouldn't have to spend so much of the budget fixing the streets. And a lot of those trucks that come through there, they've got something that's battling them day in and day out because it's self-healing cement. There's also chemicals that can be put in the cement that keep them from contracting and expanding in the winter. That's what causes the breaks and makes it weak. You see, so I think that, there's a lot of different things, and, I'd like to actually be able to sit down with somebody, because as a fraud examiner, I have discovered many different things. many, many different things. And a lot of the problem is when I have gone to the city of Chicago and when I've gone to the alderman's office, I think the city of Chicago needs an audit. To audit all the departments, audit where everything's going, and take a real close look and get rid of some of these people that have the attitudes like you're taking their time when you show up. I gotta stand there for a half hour, and then when you get there, thank you, sir. Okay, so, all right, so if I could get somebody's information, that way I can share some of this, I think there's some really good solutions that nobody's thought of.
Okay, thank you. So one of my team members will talk to you about these. Thank you. JD? Let's go over here.
Hi, Mayor. My name is Cecilia Robinson. I live in the South Shore area. I'm just concerned about our community development. I know the steel mill over there, where the extended Lakeshore Drive runs, is so desolate, destitute, empty, nothing. You go downtown, you see constant construction. You go through there, you drive that distance from 79th through to 95th, it's just desolate. Nothing, absolutely nothing. And I believe Chicago Lakeside Development, at the beginning of the millennium, was supposed to be doing something. I think Sandy Jackson, when she was alderman, she was supposed to be doing it, because I think it's a YouTube video with Bill Curtis giving a narration. The presidential library is supposed to be over there. It's a beautiful video. When is that going to come to our side of the community, of the city?
Thank you. And as I said before, I heard you loud and clear, and we will be announcing a plan shortly about economic revitalization all over the South and the West Side. I'm sorry? That is absolutely one of the areas that we're looking at. Yes, ma'am. I think we'll go here.
Good evening, Mayor. My name is Dr. Reverend Michael Norris, and I'm the CEO of a not-for-profit organization that's called God's Children. And it's a 14-core program, proactive program that addresses the issues of the youth in the city. First of all, I'd like to say thank you for being here, and it's an honor to be in your presence. And more of a question, I would just like to say that my total interest is violence. And myself, I was once a product of the street before I became who I am today. And I was shot in the neck and it severed my esophagus. And so I can kind of relate to what creates violence in the youth. And something that you said with the superintendent, and it touched my heart. When you said that we have to work collectively, we got to stop the mothers from crying. We got to stop the people from crying. We have to roll up our sleeves in this city and help you guys. And that's all I got to say. And thank you.
He didn't have a question.
Thank you, sir.
He didn't have a question. To get up and have a
Good evening, Mayor. I appreciate you being here as well as the whole forum. And I'm pretty sure most of the people here also. I'm with, my name is Neil. I'm with a Southside group that's supporting the Peatone Airport. And I'm being quick and direct to the point. We would like for you to come aboard and support it also for more jobs for the whole city in the south end of Chicago, as well as the tax base that we believe that will definitely help the tax basis of Chicago, period. And that's all. We just look for you to come aboard and make that move. And we know that you're a mover.
I hear you, man, but last time I checked, Peatone's not in Chicago.
I know, but they're looking for your support. Yes, they are. And Chicago makes a big difference. There's one other thing. There's one other thing. It's very short, and it's to the whole city.
Get to it.
People know about the history of Chicago. We would like to see the one that founded Chicago with a statue in the City Hall downtown, John Baptiste du Sable. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Guys, so we can continue to move. Can we limit it to a minute? And also, if your question or the subject that you want to talk about has already been discussed, can we please go ahead and pass and let somebody else speak? Thank you, guys.
The big line is long over here. All right.
I think we got a couple more minutes and then.
Oh, there she is.
Yeah.
So we have a hard stop at 7:15.
Well,
Okay.
7:14.
Good evening, Your Honor.
Good evening.
My name is Bertha Starks. I'm the director, producer, and creator of Real Talk with Bertha Starks. I volunteered 80 hours for your campaign. I made 2,500 phone calls for you. I am so proud to be standing here today. After 120 days in office, I am celebrating again that I voted for you. Because you are the only mayor that I have saw who has rode with the police on the highest crime weekend in Chicago that deserves a come applause. That deserves applause. And because of you, Real Talk with Bertha Starks has formed an alliance with the trades union where we are looking for young people who we can train in order that they can become tradespeople. I want to leave my card for you again, and I want to get in touch with the city about that.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, Mayor.
Good evening.
My name is Laura Morgan. I live in a high crime area in the 7th Ward, and I'm sick and tired of police tape. When I looked into what was going on in our community about in 2012, I noticed that most of the schools were low performing. And where there's low performing schools, you generally have crime. So I want to know, what are the strategies to turn these low performing schools into high performing schools that's sustainable? We need a superintendent that has strategies to do that.
So let me address your question this way. The challenge that we have with the violence that we're seeing really is that our young people don't have enough options and choices, and that they're, to be quite blunt, they're not wrapped with the kind of love and support that they need from birth until the time that they graduate. So one of the things that we are focusing on, and we did a pilot program this summer, let's look at these young people who are most at risk. This past summer, in conjunction with CPS, we took 400 kids from the so-called option schools. Now that's a nice way of saying these are alternative schools where kids who are struggling in the mainstream CPS schools go to these high schools. We have about 13,000 of these young people that are in these option schools. And a shocking thing is that 40%, and I think that's actually underreported, but 40% of those young people show up as victims of crime. So what that tells us is that we need to do a better job in making sure that those young people are supported. The pilot program that we had this summer is we gave them jobs, we gave them a stipend, and we supported them with so-called wraparound services. We gave them support on dealing with their trauma, dealing with anger issues, anger management, and what we saw is of that 400, not a single one of them was involved in crime or became a victim. So what we need to do is take that experience and expand the number of young people that we're touching. I feel very confident that if we focus on this cohort of young people in our city who are 16 to 24, in black and brown neighborhoods, if we can make a difference in the quality of those young people's lives, we're going to see a substantial change, not only in the trajectory of their lives, but also for their families and for their communities. So that is a project that we're working on now this fall in conjunction with CPS. We've got the Department of Public Health involved because of the trauma issues, but we are going to put together a much more robust and broader program that we'll launch this summer to reach those kids that are most in need. And what I am personally embarking upon is making sure that I visit every single one of those high schools. Now, we've made great success in CPS. We just announced this year that we had a graduation rate of 78% overall, but for those kids in the option schools, the graduation rate is 35%. So we know we have to do better, And I feel confident that if we can reach those young people, we will turn the tide all over this city by supporting them better.
Excuse me, Mayor. Hi, my name is Veronica Kyle, and I have the privilege to be on your environmental transition team, preparing for the first 100 days, and it was amazing.
Right.
As we talk about young people, one of the things that's real clear in this room is that we don't have our college graduates, a lot of them here, because they are buried in student debt. And one of the things that I would like to have us think about as we think about the environment is if we could bring our young college graduates who are buried in school debt back into the city by taking some of these blighted housing buildings and creating low rent for them to be able to live and pay down their loans so that they can come back to our cities and to our communities. Many of them say they can't, if they're not married or they don't have children or they don't have a certain, they can't get low-cost housing. I think we can be a city that can really be a mark for this nation by creating an opportunity for our college students to be able to come and get low housing in our city so they can pay down their debt.
That is a great idea. It's a great idea. Yes, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
My name is Fred Evans. I'm president of KECS, Block Club Association, which means keep every citizen safe. And the members, if you would just stand up so the mayor could at least see who some of you are. There you go, there you go, there you go. All right. Your Honor, we're looking for programming in our community. We live by Eckersall Stadium, which needs bathrooms and a place for those children to have programming outside. It's a beautiful facility. It's a huge resource that's being underutilized.
I'm sorry, tell me the name of the site.
Sure, Eckersall Stadium.
Okay.
It's at 82nd and Yates, between 82nd and 83rd Yates, and is that Essex? Essex. It's a fabulous facility. And Yates. Phillips, I'm sorry. I just would like to see some resources utilized to make that space greater. Period. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, now I'm extending it again. Let's just go to 7:30. I gotta get home and see my baby.
Thank you, Mayor Lightfoot. Thank you for coming and thank you for staying.
Yes, thank you.
My name is Sharon Lewis, L-O-U-I-S, and I have lived in South Shore since '66. The question I have is around accountability for work that is done in the neighborhoods. I have had work done in front of my home because they could not find my B-box. This was in 2011 or 2010, and proper restoration was not done. The water department, CDOT, whoever came there, the People's Gas, they dug in front of my home repeatedly, 10 feet down, the entire parkway, my neighbor's driveway. They finally found my B-box in the driveway to the north of me. They removed my tree violently, beat the trunk, and snatched out the roots. I live on South Shore Drive, on the 7334 South Shore Drive. I am experiencing street vibrations. I put in numerous calls to 311. Most recently, I put in calls. Someone came out and dug up the blacktop around the manhole in front of my home, reinstituted concrete. So when the bus comes in front of my home, my house shakes. Now, I have been addressing this
in a blog, which I will send to you, or you can write it down, South Shore Connected at blogspot.com. I have been fussing about it since the Dave Matthews concert was coming to Lakeside because I knew the traffic. I called today, last night and today, to 311 to find out what had happened to the SRs that I had instituted. It's been closed out. No one has responded, and no work has been done.
So I think we got a good picture of the problem.
Yes.
But let me just again, so in the interest of getting other people in, what I would suggest you do, Commissioner Carney is here from CDOT. They kind of run point on all the road construction work. Maybe you could talk with him afterwards.
But I want to say that was personal. It's all up and down South Shore Drive.
Understood.
It's not just me.
Got it. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Mayor. Thank you for extending your stay here. My name is Yolanda Duncan, and I've been in this area my whole life. My major concern now is that as a small, my family's owned the property in this area. My family's owned property in this area for over 4 decades, and what we're having now as private citizens is we're competing with absentee investors who fill up these multi-unit apartment buildings where we live, and they are not accountable on any level for anything that's happening. Not the tenants that are there, not the behavior of the tenants that are there. They're really impacting the quality of life for people who've lived in there, owner-occupied apartment buildings for decades. And we really need to address that, and I have some great ideas. I'm also a retired law enforcement for the city. So, and I live in this area, and I've been here, like I said, my whole life. So I would like to have someone address some of these concerns with these absentee investors who come in. They're not concerned with who they put in these apartments, and no one's holding them accountable. They're dropping trash in the alleys. We're getting rats. I mean, I could go on and on. They're just throwing trash everywhere. It's really impacting the quality of life, and it makes it difficult for me as a small as a small property owner to rent to people at market value.
God, I hear you. So maybe, Alderman, because we've heard this now a couple different times, we can work through your office to kind of get a sense of the scope of the problem, and then we'll figure out a solution. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Eva Triplett, and I wanted to know if there was like a different type of language that could be instituted, or the ordinance amended that involves the requirements of landlords when people who have housing choice vouchers are looking for a place to stay, because I've been dealing with a lot of pushback from the landlords, such as you have to have 3 times the rent. The rent is like $1,400 to $1,600. They want you to have 700 credit score, and I think that would lead to, if that was changed or altered or amended, I think that would lead to 1 Chicago as opposed to 2, because I've been dealing with a lot of that, mostly on the north side of Chicago, and there are some places that you can move to on the north side with that are nice, but it just prevents you from moving there because of the requirements that they're asking of you. And I think all people that happen to have the housing choice vouchers are decent people, and they have these vouchers because they couldn't get employment after 40. So it seems like between 40 and 65 it's difficult for people to get employment. And so I'm glad that there's a program like that, but we just need to have some type of regulation for landlords, not to ask just unheard of requirements of people with vouchers.
Yep.
Because it's like reverse discrimination.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate your comments. Thank you. Over here, sir.
Hello. My name is Gus Redmond, and I've been in the neighborhood for over 40 years. I've had businesses here. I'm not going to take too much time because I want to just indicate that there's been quite a bit of conversation about the schools and the kids, our youth. What I want to indicate, and to the Alderman also, the organization I'm with give away scholarships. We just finished. We was at Northeastern on the northwest side. My organization, I'm one of 3 people that run the Chicago. I just spoke with one of your young men that's here, and I told him to give my information to the principal. I will give every last one of these kids a scholarship. Every last one. Now, the next thing I want to do is I would like to set up an appointment with you. Not here, we don't have the time. I want these people to get their chance. I want to help bring some of the businesses back in our community. I'm not interested in going anywhere but the south and the west side. We can make some things happen with you because I'm not asking for no money from you. We have the connections.
That's a good
to
thing.
make things done.
We have a budget deficit next year.
Okay. I'll give my information.
Yes, if you give your information, sir, we'll make sure that somebody follows up with you. Thank you. And I think you
One
can get
more for both sides.
This is, yeah, all right. One more for both sides. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, but Alderman Mitchell and panel. My name is Alyssa Love. I'm here with the fellow musician Herman Smith. In 2001, the city instituted the One Book, One Chicago, and we would like for you to institute a One Song, One Chicago. This is a personal greeting to you on a CD with a song that you might want to pilot the program with if you want to, and it's about the violence in Chicago.
Thank you. And you have the last word, ma'am.
Hi, how are you today?
Good to see you.
Good. My name is Angela McGee. I live on 96 in Van Belishingen. I only have 2 concerns. One concern is the street lights. It's much too dark over there. We need to have more lighting in the streets, in the schools, more lighting. And then we have been having flood there for the last 15 years. I'm going to keep praying. But if you can make sure that it's taken care of, I greatly appreciate it.
Can you give me the location again, ma'am?
Yes, that's 9626 in Van Belishingen. Van Belishingen Heights is what I call it. Van Belishingen Heights. VANVLISSINGEN.
Thank you.
Thank you.
93rd and Jeffrey. All the way to
I got it.
92nd and
All right. Mayor, I will make sure you get all of this. We have it. Okay,
So obviously flooding is a big issue down here.
South Indians.
And the lights.
Street lights. Go ahead.
Street lights.
Street paving.
So my understanding is that now you're aggressively asserting that you get the last one, and this has to be the last one because I do have to go.
That's one of my gangster
But
secrets.
the question is about the vacant schools. My understanding is that there's only 11 left of the 50, and because I've asked exactly the same issue. We are looking into what we can do to repurpose those schools, but we want to have a process so that the community gets to determine how those closed schools are actually going to be utilized. So thank you.
Okay. Guys, it's 7:30, so we're going to end the community meeting, but we want to say thank you to Mayor Lightfoot for coming out. And thank you to the rest of the representatives from the agencies and CPD. Now for all those questions, make sure Make sure I get them, and I'll make sure it goes to the mayor's. Get it. Okay. The mayor will be heading out, but the others will be hanging around for another 15 so minutes to talk to you guys.
Sure, cool. I can do that. Cool. Are you on Facebook? Yeah.